try and have fun. And the reason I say try and have fun is because there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of like self-doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome. I mean, like you're putting your heart out that you're making artwork that's going to
Right.
be viewed, right? Like that's pretty intimate, and that can kind of take a little bit of a toll on you, and that could kind of steer you away or in whatever direction that you want to go. And as long as like you can kind of approach it with some like lightheartedness and still have fun, um then it will help you keep going, and you'll get better at your craft over time. But a lot of times I see, students who have talent will come up to me and be like, well, I don't know if this is for me. This person in here is already so much better than me. Like, how could I ever compete? You know? And that's kind of disappointing because you're like, well, you haven't found what like makes you unique yet, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe you're not going to be as amazing at creatures as this person, and maybe something clicks for them, but like, you have something that they probably don't have, and the more time you spend, you might discover that, right? And you can
Right.
do all these kind of things. So I mean, of course, there's all sorts of gamut on people's skill and talent and their work ethic, right? It's a huge pot. But um yeah, I think that when you first start getting in the industry, you start to hear things and you can kind of get mixed messages. Like, you need to be working 14-hour days, you need to be working 15-hour days, like this. And yeah, there's some validity to that because it allows you to get good quickly, right? But then there's the side that's becoming more popular now, which is like, you know take some time for your mental health, right? Like,
Right.
eat right, stay hydrated, like simple things that people forget. Be easy on yourself. Try to keep things simple, like break problems down into small things, right? And then try to like go down a checklist. Like, there's certain things that you got to do, um, just to kind of, or at least I had to do,
Right.
right? Just to kind of stay with it. So
What are you
yeah.
doing like now, like just to keep that same spirit alive within you, where you don't fall into, you know, working too much and burning out, and keeping your inspiration alive, and all of those things, and like keeping it
Yeah.
light and having fun with it, right? Because everybody can take life so seriously at times.
Totally, totally. I fluctuate, right? Like sometimes I'm like, man, I'm really terrible at this, right? And I've been doing it for a while, right? So I should already know that I'm not terrible at this. But
Right.
sometimes I think that way. But I just think about that way less. I think about that less now than I did before. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, I'm like the stock market, just like slowly going, or hopefully like the stock market slowly going up, but there's some volatility there. But what I do is I just have some things that like I've done that kind of help me in my mental space. Right now, I don't do them as much because I just had a baby and that takes up all of your time. But aside from that, like I will like paint model cars. Like that's kind of fun for me. It's not what I
Yeah.
do for a living, but like it's still somewhat of a creative outlet. That's not exactly what I do. Or maybe even incorporating some traditional sculpting that I didn't do before. That is just like, I'm just like learning how to do clay. And you can also get your little rewards that way because like you'll get a spike in skill quickly before you plateau. As of now, it's like it's so much more gradual because I'm so much deeper into it. But with learning
Right.
a new skill, you kind of get your little jumps faster. So that's really rewarding. Also, I like to do things that I like. I remember, I think I spoke to you about this. I had a friend who told me, he has a sketchbook that like part of his rule is like not to show anybody. And the
Yeah.
reason he does that is because it allows him to experiment and fail and essentially have a sketchbook that's more like free of the mind, or just like, or not free of the mind, just a free mind, right? And I noticed that in art school, people had their sketchbook and they would show people their sketchbook. So they're always making something to like show somebody like that they're going to be judged on it. So like
Right.
everything kind of has that. So I love that idea. And then I do things that I know, or sometimes I know, and unless they turn into something I really like that I'll show people, but I'll do something just understanding like that I'll never show anybody. And it's okay because like I could experiment and be totally off, but I don't badger myself that it looks like crap. I just like save that file, put a little date on it, and then I'll be like, that was a failure. But it was fun to do, right? Like, so you can do, there's little things, but personally for me, that's a pressure that I can relieve for myself, and I could just be weird and then experiment and allow myself to fail pretty
Yeah.
comfortably.